the leaves through these pores for a purpose of photosynthesis, but it is important to note that exchange of gases occurs across the surface of stem, roots and leaves as well. Since large amount of water can also be lost through these stomata, the plant chews these spores when it does not need carbon dioxide for photosynthesis. The opening and closing of pores is a function of the guard cells. The guard cells swell when water flows into them, causing the stomatal pore to open. Similarly, the pore closes if the guard cells shrink. यहाँ पे बीच में स्टोमेटल पोर है और ये जो है ग्रीन कलर का क्लोरोप्लास्ट है और ये जो बीन जैसा स्ट्रक्चर है ये गार्ड सेल्स है. ए में ओपन है और बी में क्या हो गया है स्टोमेटल पोर क्लोज हो गया. अब एक्टिविटी एक करने के लिए कर रहा है. टेक टू healthy potted plants which are nearly the same size. Keep them in a dark room for 3 days. Now place each plant on separate glass plates. Place a watch glass containing potassium hydroxide by the side of one of the plants. The potassium hydroxide is used to absorb carbon dioxide. Cover both plants with separate bell jars as shown in figure 4.4. Use Vaseline to seal the bottom of the jar to the glass plate so that the setup is airtight. Keep the plants in sunlight for about 2 hours. Pluck a leaf from each plant and check for the presence of starch and the above activity. Do both. The leaves show the presence of the same amount of starch. What can you conclude from this activity? Bell jar, watch glass containing potassium hydroxide. Experiment setup with potassium hydroxide and without potassium hydroxide. Based on 2 activities performed above, can we design an experiment to demonstrate that sunlight is essential for photosynthesis? So far we have talked about how autotrophs meet their energy requirements, but they also need other raw materials for building their body. Water used in photosynthesis is taken up from the soil by the roots in terrestrial plants. Other materials like nitrogen, phosphorus, iron and magnesium are taken up from the soil. Nitrogen is an essential element used in the synthesis of protein and other compounds. This is taken up in the form of inorganic nitrates or nitrates, or it is taken up as organic compounds which have been prepared by bacteria from atmospheric nitrogen. Heterotrophic nutrition. Each organism is adapted to its environment. The form of nutrition differs depending on the type of availability of food material as well as how it is obtained by the organism. For example, whether the food source is stationary such as grass or mobile such as a deer would allow for differences in how the food is accessed and what is the nutritive apparatus used by a cow and a lion. There is a range of strategies by which the food is taken in and used by the organism. Some organisms break down the food material outside the body and then absorb it. Examples are fungi like bread molds, yeast and mushroom. Others take in whole material and break it down inside their bodies. These can be taken in and broken down, depends on the body design and be functioning. Some other organisms derive nutrition from plants or animals without killing them. The parasitic nutritive strategy is used by a wide variety of organisms like cuscuta, amarbel, ticks, lice, leeches, and tapeworms. How do organisms obtain their nutrition? Since the food and the way it is obtained differ, the digestive system is different in various organisms. In single-celled organisms, the food may be taken in by the entire surface, but as the complexity of the different functions, for example, amoeba takes in food using temporary finger-like extensions of the cell surface which fuse over the food particle, forming a food vacuole. Inside the food vacuole, complex substances are broken down into simpler ones, which then diffuse into the cytoplasm. The remaining undigested material is moved to the surface of the cell and thrown out. In paramecium, which is also a unicellular organism, the cell has a definite shape and food is taken in at a specific spot. Food is moved to this spot by the movement of cilia which cover the entire surface of the cell. A नंबर में न्यूक्लियस, ये फूड पार्टिकल, बी नंबर में फॉर्म pseudopodia, and C number में food vacuole in which food particles, and after that their digestion occur, and after that by the process of diffusion waste is outside of the body. Nutrition in human beings. The alimentary canal is basically a long tube extending from the mouth to the anus in figure 6.6. We can see that the tube has different parts. Various regions are specialized to perform different functions. What happens to the food once it enters our body? We shall discuss this process here. Take 1 ml starch solution 1% in 2 test tube A and B. Add 1 ml saliva to test tube A and leave both test tube undisturbed for 20 to 30 minutes. Now add a few drops of dilute iodine solution to the test tubes. In which test tube do you observe a color change? What does this indicate about the presence or absence of a starch in the 2 test tube? What does this tell us about the action of saliva or starch? We eat various types of food which have to pass through the same digestive tract. Naturally, the food has to be processed to generate particles which are small and of the same texture. This is achieved by crushing the food with our teeth. Since the lining of the canal is soft, the food is also wetted to make its passage smooth. When we eat something we like, our mouth waters. This is actually not only water but a fluid called saliva secreted by salivary gland. Another aspect of the food we ingest is its complex nature. If it is to be absorbed from the alimentary canal, it has to be broken into smaller molecules. This is done with the help of biological catalysts called enzymes. The saliva contains and breaks down starch, which is a complex molecule, to give sugar. The food is mixed thoroughly with saliva and moved around the mouth while chewing by the muscular tongue. It is necessary to move the food in a regulated manner along the digestive tube so that it can be processed properly in each part. The lining of canal has muscles that contract rhythmically in order to push the food forward. These peristaltic movements occur all along the gut. From the mouth, the food is taken to the stomach through the food pipe or esophagus. The stomach is a large organ which expands when food enters it. The muscular walls of the stomach help in mixing the food thoroughly with more digestive juices. These digestion functions are taken care of by the gastric glands present in the wall of the stomach. These release hydrochloric acid, a protein digesting enzymes called pepsin and mucus. Protein digesting enzymes called pepsin and mucus. The hydrochloric acid creates an acidic medium which facilitates the action of the enzymes pepsin. What other function do you think is served by the acid? The mucus protects the inner lining of the stomach from the action of the acid under normal conditions. V. यहाँ पे ये टंग है, माउथ बकल कैविटी, ओइसोफेगस, ये डायफ्राम हो गया ऊपर बोला, ये स्टमक हो गया, ये स्मॉल इंटेस्टाइन हो गया यहाँ पे, और ये पेनक्रियाज हो गया लीफ जैसा, और ये हो गया लीवर, और ये हो गया बाइल डक्ट, और यहाँ पे जहाँ से निकल के आता है गॉल ब्लैडर जो कि बाइल जूस को स्टोर करता है, और यहाँ पे ये लार्ज इंटेस्टाइन हो गया, ये अपेंडिक्स हो गया छोटा सा, और ये एनस, और ये क्या है ह्यूमन एलिमेंट्री कैनाल. Have often heard adults complaining about acidity. Can this be related to what has been discussed above? The exit of food from the stomach is regulated by a sphincter muscle which releases it in small amounts into the small intestine. From the stomach, the food now enters the small intestine. This is the longest part of the alimentary canal, which is fitted into a compact space because of a extensive coiling. The length of the small intestine differs in various animals depending on the food they eat. Herbivores eating grass needs a longer small intestine to allow the cellulose to be digested. Meat is easier to digest, hence carnivores like tigers have a shorter small intestine. The small intestine is the site of the complete digestion of carbohydrates, proteins and fats. It receives the secretions of the liver and pancreas. For this purpose, the food coming from the stomach is acidic and has to be made alkaline for the pancreatic enzymes to act. Bile juice from the liver accomplishes this in addition to acting on fats. Fats are present in the intestine in the form of large globules which make it difficult for enzymes to act on them. Bile salts break them down into smaller globules, increasing the efficiency of enzyme action. This is similar to the emulsification action of soap on dirt that we have learnt about in the chapter 4. The pancreas secretes pancreatic juice which contain enzymes like trypsin for digesting protein and lipase for breaking down emulsified fat. The walls of a small intestine contains glands which secrete intestinal juice. The enzyme present in it finally convert the protein to amino acid, complex carbohydrate into glucose, and fats into fatty acid and glycerol. The digested food is taken up by the wall of the intestine. The inner lining of the small intestine has